right, folks, grab a seat and pour your drink, Nate. Sorry, that was legit. Let's try it again. All right, folks, have a seat and pour your drink, Nate. As Whiskers and Whiskeys presents Tales of the Trophies, Best of the Rest, Season 4. I'm Mike, dealing with a little bit of a cold right now. With me is EJ. How's it going, pal?
I'm doing a lot better than you, it sounds like.
Well, I got to get the I have so much rasp going on from the congestion that I, didn't maybe need to reach as low as I did there as I normally do for the intros. So, yep, that'll happen. You'll have that. So,
Yeah.
The whole house went down. Lexi came home sick on Thursday, so we kept her on Friday. And by Saturday morning, I was feeling bad. Kara was feeling bad. Caden got sick. So, we're on the other side of it most of all, but I am just so galled on darn tired right now. It is unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm pretty exhausted from last night. Football. So obviously a fantastic football weekend for me. I think I was texting you all of the different things, which we can talk about some of the pod related happiness that I had. But yeah, I mean, anytime you can have an undefeated college football team, first time in a long time. I had a great win. A couple of young kids, kind of announcing themselves to the Big Ten. About that. And then, the Lions, like most teams, did not look very good at times, but they ultimately got that dub against playoff teams. I'll take it.
Absolutely. Yeah, let me be probably the last to say to you, congratulations on the nice win for the Lions, and also Spar, you had a weekend all around. A lot of good. Well, I missed a good chunk of the football, but you updated.
Yeah, your texts were few and far between, and I was like, okay, something's up here.
Yeah,
because we're usually pretty rapid fire on Saturdays, and you were a ghost for most of it, and then you were like, oh, I'm sick, and I'm like, okay, that makes a lot more sense. Yeah, I knew Lexi was sick, but I didn't know it got to you.
I caught a little snooze and managed to catch. I recorded Texas, Michigan because I wanted to see what happened, regardless of how it played out.
Stomping.
It was a stomping. I went back and watched the highlights, and it was pretty easy to fast forward through a lot of Michigan's offensive plays or drives, if you want to call them that. But yeah, I mean, it was say what you will. I know they lost all the pieces that made them a champion team, including Connor Stallions. But I think that Texas. Still a tough place to play in Michigan. I think Texas showed up and showed out big time.
Yeah, no, they similar to last year, they're earning that just the right to be considered a playoff contender and a national champion contender. Went to Tuscaloosa, won that game last year, and then this year, I mean, yeah, I think we were both pretty high on them this year, like we were last year, and I think this was again, while Michigan's offense is replacing everybody, and it's terrible. The defense is a great defense with multiple first round picks, potentially multiple top 10 picks.
Yeah,
and. They tried to put up a fight, but really I was actually kind of surprised they didn't put up as much of a fight as I thought they would. And I think a lot of that is more Texas being good. I think that offensive line is got thrown out to the fire as true freshmen, and now they're juniors, and it's showing, right?
Yeah,
like they definitely kept Quinn upright, and he did really well. This was probably one of the games, kind of lukewarm. He has that weird Phillip Rivers like delivery that is really low, but he impressed me. I think, like, not to say I'm some scout here, but I just we watch a lot of college football, a lot of quarterbacks, and last year, even though they were good, like, he was also throwing to Mitchell and Worthy wide open, and but the way he was maneuvering in the pocket and just like stuff like that, like he just looked a lot more comfortable, and I feel like this is one of the first times I've seen him, and I'm like, okay, this could be an NFL quarterback, not just a really good like college quarterback.
Yeah, composure. Well, a lot of good composure from him this week for sure. So we'll see. We'll see how it continues. I mean, really, what pretty impressive. Last thing I'll say about Quinn Ewers in Texas is pretty impressive journey when you look at, because they even showed a picture from him, when he was at Ohio State and they played, and you almost forget he was the kid with the mullet who's going around like crazy with a massive NIL deal, and it's like, oh, he transfers, it's like, oh boy, this kid's gonna be a bust, and then Arch comes in, it's like, well, see you, Quinn, nice knowing you, but he really, I think, has shown a lot of composure and handled the situation super well. And kudos to Arch for sticking around too. Guy said he doesn't mind waiting, wants to sit. Grant, we have no idea how good he really is, but it's pretty. Dare I say it? I don't want to jinx it. Knock on wood. I think Sark is building something in Texas.
Yeah, I mean, the infrastructure's there. It's been there, right? They just needed someone else to take the reins after what's Mac, right?
Yeah, but Charlie Strong. It was Mac, Charlie Strong, and then Sark, right?
I don't know. I feel like they had a lot more than that in between, didn't they?
I thought it went from Charlie Strong to Stark.
I mean, maybe, but there was no one else in between.
Oh, yeah. No, Mac?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, Mac had them as national contenders, like, regularly, and then it fell off a cliff, and they were in no man's land like USC has been since Carroll. Obviously, they had a few issues there following Carroll, but it's taken until... It was Mac, Charlie Strong, Tom Herman. Tom Herman's who I forgot about. That's Yeah. Forgot about Tom Herman. Yeah. So, all right. What else? I feel like this is at least for me, man, a big overreaction plus like trend that I'm like I can reason with, right? Like I definitely have quite a few overreactions. To be honest with you,
I'll just say one. We were just talking about Mac. Is the MAC the best conference in college football right now? Some would say. NIU knocks off Notre Dame. Bowling Green takes Penn State to the brink. I'm just saying.
When we do this podcast, sometimes there's events that happen that kind of changed the way we operate. So, decided to do this pick'em challenge. Initially, it was just us having fun and giving out picks. And then it was like, okay, let's have a competition. Let's do this with other people against other people. And it was like, okay, well, what's a good way to spice this up? Since we, as the year gets later, you have Maction, you have all these early week games, and, we came up with our risk it for the biscuit. Notre Dame has now given us even more, an event that happened that gives us an even better idea. Likely won't implement it this year. I mean, potentially, it's still pretty early on. We could, take a poll. But we're coming up with an idea of if there's got to be a punishment for picking a team, and mind you, Chad, if you're listening, this is not directed at you, but it just like made us start to think. If you end up picking a spread that's over a certain amount, especially over, I'd say at least 20, maybe even less. But if you picked a favorite of 20 or more and they lose outright, that just can't be a zero. That's got to be something more.
I think we'd like to introduce everyone to the failing Irish clause of our pick'em challenge. Details yet to be sorted out, but I threw out to EJ. The Irish were 27.5 point favorites, so we could do something like, if you are a 3 or 4 touchdown favorite, we'll have to talk about, see what we think. I think 3 touchdown would be a little more interesting. So if you pick a 3 touchdown favorite, and that team loses straight up, not doesn't cover, but just loses the game, then you get 0 for the week. Mark it a scratch, and you're done. I think that's that adds another layer of complexity to all of this. So
yeah. No, it's something that rarely happens, but like when it does, it can't go unnoticed. Like it
almost happened 3 times this weekend. Well, I don't know what Penn State started out at.
More than Northern Illinois. More. It was like 34.5.
34 Penn State over Bowling Green.
Yeah.
So that would have qualified. And then my Tide almost. Well, I mean, if you look at and Jesse Palmer said this, he's like, people are just going to look at the end score and be like, oh, look, Bama really handled business there. But with 6 minutes left in the game, USF had the opportunity. There was 4th down. It's like, okay, do they want to kick the field goal to be down by 5, or do they want to go for 2 in the 2-point, or go for the touchdown and 2-point conversion and tie this game up? So now then it if we talk about my overreactions of the week and your overreactions of the week, Bama, their starting right tackle last week got a little dinged up, didn't play well last week. They put him in the 4th quarter. When he was in the game, I think it's something like 7 plays or 9 plays, some ridiculously small amount of plays. They had 49% of their offensive. I have to find this. I hope I favorited it, but it's something insane. 49% of their offensive efficiency came when they switched out the right tackle. That's all they did. Absolutely banana land stat.
So is that where Proctor plays? Is that who he was replacing?
No, Proctor's the left tackle. Okay. But they've had to, with Proctor being out, they've had to move a bunch of people around. But the right tackle, let me see this. Let me see what happened. I'll find it because this is a crazy stat.
All right, my overreactions. I mean, I said Penn State win just a week ago in Columbus or against Ohio State.
You sure about that?
I am not sure about that. I think they're going to lose multiple games. I mean, that's just unacceptable. I mean, it's one thing again to have a letdown, and thankfully I don't really care. They're lucky, unlike Notre Dame, that they ended up squeaking out that 1 possession win, but they were down, right? Like I think they might have been down at halftime, and it was just, again, it's one thing to have the letdown, and I think that was a good spot to pick that team to cover Bowling Green, but like to almost outright lose at home, that's just, I don't know. I find that very hard to fathom.
Please go ahead.
I was just gonna say, but it's crazy. I mean, you always got to remember, like that's part of the fun in picking both college and NFL games. Like it's so easy to get bogged down in who's better, who's worse, and sometimes there's just scheduling losses, right? There's schedule losses, schedule non-covers, and that was clearly one, and now I'm going to be keeping a closer eye out on future ones, after big. I mean, everyone always looks ahead, right? Like that's an easy one to identify, which does end up happening more times than not when teams are looking ahead. But I think also the week after a huge emotional win can also be a letdown spot.
That's why I hammered Utah State plus 28.5 in the late game. Woke up, that bet did not cash, but Utah State played USC, and it was okay. Penn State had a big win, letdown. Notre Dame had a big win, bigger letdown. So I was kind of banking on, okay, who else do we think might be affected by this? But that's that probably would have been a good spot to take it. I will say though, I understand your concern with the Nittany Lions. I kind of think that's an overreaction. Like I think they're going to be fine.
That's why I said it.
Yeah. You seem like you're hedging more on the multiple loss. You said multiple losses. I think they're going to be fine.
Yeah, that's my overreaction because they looked like I trusted them. And even on offense, I mean, that final score is whatever. They scored like 34 or whatever it ended up being, but it was not even close to that. Like it took very end for that to happen. So not only was it not just, okay, the defense isn't what I thought it was going to be. That was kind of my cap anyway, but it was Kotelnicki, and he made them look really great against West Virginia. And then against Bowling Green, they struggled, and it was like, WTF here. Like, are we already one game back to where they started? And it's like, I don't know. Like, then my overreaction reaction to this would be like, yeah, there's no chance in hell they're beating Ohio State, but that's why it's an overreaction.
That's why it's a fair. Is there anyone else who you really, either overreaction to, or you think like, hey, they are who they thought we were. They are who we thought they were.
I have another complete overreaction, and that's that 1,000% my Cyclones pick is going to work out. Although I will say, I'm pretty sure, I wrote it down on my paper. I'm pretty sure I talked about in our Big 12 that when I was counting up the wins and losses for Iowa State, I had that one as a win. So now it took a 54. I capped the game in my head much differently. I thought it was going to be, Iowa struggled on offense. Shocker, that happened. But I thought Iowa State would be decidedly better on offense than they were. But, they still drilled a 54-yarder, at Kinnick to beat their rival. But it made me feel good that at least I wasn't completely off, right?
Yeah.
But it was a step in the right direction. But a part of me was like, after watching the freaking Gundy almost blow that game and Kansas State, right? Like, to see my Cyclones take that W made me just automatically say they're shooing.
Yeah.
Well,
I think they looked impressive this weekend. I would say the biggest thing, I found the stat, by the way, 42%. Just think about this for a second. 42% of Alabama's offensive production came in the 7 plays Elijah Pritchett was in at right tackle. My man was in at right tackle for 7 plays. 42% of their offensive production. Think about that.
Then you guys should go with pitchforks if he is not starting right tackle in Madison this weekend.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure. Like that. I think that he did struggle against Western Kentucky, and he was injured. So I think that there's some reasoning behind that. But no. Speaking of the SEC, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's going on there because okay, so Bama's doing okay. Georgia's doing well. Tennessee's doing really well. Like to the point that I am real nervous about the Volunteers. Ole Miss is looking great. Mizzou's looking good. The teams that we thought would be at the top of the SEC are there. Middle of the SEC is going to be real interesting this year because Kentucky, as it turns out, is actually bad. Arkansas, as it turns out, is good. And then game days coming to South Carolina for LSU coming to town. I don't know what's going on with the middle of the SEC this year. I think it's going to be pretty interesting to watch. I think, and all of this to say, when you have teams like Alabama with, no more Saban, you got DeBoer now. You got Tennessee having to deal with no longer being the underdog, but now the favorite. Same could be said for Ole Miss. I think there's a lot of teams in there that have the ability to get someone now, Before I was thinking, you got 6 teams at the top and they're going to be great. Now it's like, I just, excuse me as I'm dying. I just don't know what's going to happen this year. I think we're going to see some very interesting football in the SEC.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like my reaction is still the same. Like I don't know. I'm still not sold on Missouri. I have to watch them play a real team because again, it was never that they weren't going to score points. I mean, again, like Luther Burden could be the first receiver off the board in the NFL for the draft, but
right,
it's their defense, and now that you're talking about all these other very successful offenses, I think that's going to be the problem. But I think, when you get to the middle and bottom, I think, I guess the time is kind of over to see how they would play against other teams. But Florida sucks. Kentucky sucks. Auburn sucks.
Oh, Auburn's so bad. So bad.
That's what happens when you start Peyton Thorne still. Could have told you that was going to happen. South Carolina has that game-wrecking true freshman on the defensive line, and that's enough to cause a lot of problems, right?
Yeah.
Especially against inferior teams. And I think we all knew the Bulldogs down in Stark Vegas was going to be pretty dog shit. Vandy, that's still kind of frisky. We'll see.
We'll see very frisky. I can't believe I forgot about the Commodores.
Yeah, but I don't know. It'll be. I still think you're top heavy, and I think in this case, I'm like actually analyzing, not an overreaction, but just something that I'm keeping track of is like, I really thought Nico was gonna, come in and be that stabilizing force that Heupel needed, and so far so good. Now again, like on my list, I had NC State, and I actually liked that final score is a little misleading. I think it really snowballed on them, especially in the second half. They were really in it to begin, and they played really good defense. So I actually feel pretty good that they're still going to be fine in the ACC and still compete. But that being said, they're not Ole Miss. They're not Alabama.
Yeah.
So still have to see Tennessee. But what I've seen so far is the games have not been too big for Nico, and that's similar to Raiola, right? I think that's the similar takeaway I had with Nebraska is, again, like I got real hype about it. But now a couple games in, it's like, okay, like we're on track. We're on track. I feel like with Tennessee for my picks, Tennessee, Nebraska,
on track.
After seeing these guys play a couple of games, a couple of Power 5 opponents, they're on track. And then that's all I can ask for. I'm not completely like, well, now the one team that I am a little nervous about and not overreacting is like Oregon's got to get their shit together here. We have them as like a national contender, and like
we both have them as a national champion. Yeah.
They gotta figure their shit out here. Well, it's a line.
Speaking of Oregon, this is a really interesting stat that just came across my desk. Let me actually send it to you. That's a nice little map here where you can kind of see what I'm talking about. So basically, this group of teams is 21-0 and 3-0 against the SEC. So see if you can spot the similarities between these teams: Washington, Washington State, Oregon, Oregon State, Cal, Stanford, UCLA, USC, Arizona, Arizona State, and Utah. Combined 21-0 and 3-0 against the SEC. What do these teams have in common, EJ? I ask you.
No, wait. Hold on. Let me read this stat again. This group of teams is 21-2.
I left Colorado out.
I was going to say, so they're the two.
They are the two. Yeah.
These are the artists formerly known as the Pac-12.
That's right, Pac-11, but with leaving Colorado out. But
no, it's interesting, and I'm not.
What did they take from us, CJ? What did they take from us?
I know. I mean,
I see these Big 10 after dark, Big 12 after dark posts. How dare you stand where he stood?
But the real late night games have still been in our hearts, right? They've still been Oregon. I tried my best to stay up for all of it. I got through maybe like a quarter or two. I don't think I got to halftime. I tried, but speaking of the artist formerly known as the Pac-12, we are here at one of our favorite rivalries, especially of recent, of late, not of recent. And that's the rivalry between the Oregon Ducks and the Oregon State Beavers. And it's odd that this is happening so early. It's usually the end of the year type of game, along with next week's spoiler, next week's trophy we're going to talk about, but it's going to happen this week. I had to pick one of the two, and this one's a little bit closer to my heart, but the Apple Cup between Washington and Washington State. I'll just say I'm thankful that they figured it out and they were able to settle some differences and at least get this schedule for the next 2 years. Or get them on the schedule, and I'm kind of psyched that it's early because looking at the slate, like you don't get too many rivalry games this early. Like the Cyhawk is pretty abnormal to be early because they're non-conference opponents now, but I'm really glad that this is early because a lot of rivalries get buried at Thanksgiving, and this one is one of them typically for most people, but kind of gets pulled out now, and really excited to talk about this rivalry and this trophy, because this trophy's been one that I've had circled ever since we started this pod. So
it's I mean, one day, maybe they'll play they'll play the Apple Cup and the Platypus Trophy. They'll all move back to week 13. But hey, week 3 is close enough. So we'll take it.
So do you know what this looks like?
Yeah, big old platypus.
Okay. Yes, you are correct. And now that I'm thinking about it, I'm pretty sure I deleted all the pictures off of your
You did.
Yeah, let me go ahead and fix that for you.
Yeah, hey, I appreciate you.
Okay. So, and like I said, it actually works out because I had a feeling you knew what it looked like.
Yeah, I mean, listen, some things it's what you see is what you get, and in the case of the Platypus Trophy, that is the case. I'll just take a pause here. Sometimes, we do this on the side. We have full-time jobs, and we're also dads of 2. And, Caden's not feeling very well right now. And Kara's like, he's like having some bad sounds and stuff like that. I think she's sucking his nose with one of those booger suckers because she said, I got the culprit finally, 3rd attempt. So I'm like, what is because I'm like, do you need me to come help? I can pause the podcast. And she's like, I got the culprit finally, 3rd attempt. I'm going to say, is the culprit a booger?
We hope so.
We hope so. There could be but knowing my wife, there could be an intruder in the house and she has them just, bleeding on the floor right now. So
yes,
large.
Is that what she said? Yes, large.
Yes, okay, period. Large, period.
Okay, we're back. Okay, so before we talk about the trophy, though, let me talk a little bit more about this rivalry, since you already know that it is indeed.
I could explain it to the people because I think that there is some nuance to the.
Yeah, well, let me get there first.
Yeah, I'll let you.
Let me, as they say in the movie biz, let me lay some pipe here.
I'll let you lay some pipe. Now put something through it.
Yeah, great. So this rivalry dates back to 1894 when an intense. Oh yeah. So we had the school in Corvallis, which was the. Oh, well, I'm going to get this wrong. No, yeah, the Oregon Agricultural College, and the team in Eugene, which was the University of Oregon Lemon Yellows.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, Lemon Yellows.
Lemon-yellows.
Correct.
Lemon-yellows. The University of Oregon Lemon Yellows.
Yeah. So the Oregon Agricultural College Coyotes won that game 16-0. And the game has been played 127 times through 2023, and has been continuous since 1945. Much
has been said about individuals who have matriculated through the University of Oregon being some strange ducks, if you will, even if you won't. I'm going to use the term. And I don't think it has anything to do with current state University of Oregon, with anything going on there. I think this is deep seated. I think if you were a school that used to have the mascot of the Lemon Yellows, there's something wrong with that campus. The ground it was built on may have been somehow cursed, hexed. I don't know, but to be the Lemon Yellows, that is I've never heard that one before. Like, not only are you could be the Lemons. Hell, you can be the Yellows. Syracuse is the orange, but to be the Lemon Yellows.
Hey, they wanted to be real specific about the color yellow.
Yeah, they're pretty much just like a crayon, or they're a paint swatch from Lowe's.
Yeah.
The Lemon Yellows. Yeah. Wow.
Well, Oregon leads the series overall.
Was that even a color in 1894? Was that something that people were like,
I mean, the lemons were around. So
yeah, lemons were around, but like when we're picking out colors, it's like, hey, I like that lemon yellow shirt. Like I feel like most of the shirts back then were like white, gray, or black, but all the shirts started white.
That would be because pictures weren't black and white, so that's probably why you would be thinking.
No,
you wouldn't have seen them with your own eyes. You would have only seen them through the lens of, a gray
brother. I hate to break it to you, that's just how life was back then. Technicolor was invented much later, so people were just walking around all black and white back in the day. That's just That's just the way it was.
That's it.
So
Oregon leads the series.
68
wins to 49 losses to 10 ties. And the game was not held in 1900, 1901, 1911, 1943, 1944. A lot of those dates around wars. And then 2 games were played in 1896 and in 1945. But before we get to the Platypus Trophy, another way that this game has always been kind of, the moniker that this rivalry goes by, and this is how I knew it before I became an East Coast Pac-12 correspondent, before I knew that they played for this beautiful trophy. It was always the Civil War, right? That's how they described it. That was how it was always talked about. You had the game, all the different rivalries, and this
one shootout,
Red River, and then Civil War. So it wasn't until 1916 when Oregon State College switched its mascot to the Beavers, which is actually interesting because the school's yearbook renamed itself the Beaver as well, after the state animal. So that's what they came up with. They said, probably shouldn't be coyotes anymore. Why don't we go with our state animal, the Beaver?
Yeah.
So it was in the Beaver, that yearbook, that the first reference to the Civil War came. So it was in 1929 when the Oregon football coach, John McEwen, who was there from 26 to 29, felt it would be a fitting title since it was a rivalry of 2 schools in the same state. So that was kind of his logic between for naming it that. And it didn't come into common use until about 1937. So about 8 years, it was just kind of, probably Oregon kind of calling it that because of him. But then it became known in 1937. So before it was deemed the Civil War, most people referred to the game as the Oregon Classic or state championship game. But people began to shift, like I said, around 1937, because of that reference from the Beaver yearbook.
I like classic or state championship. Didn't Arizona State, didn't they call themselves the state championship too? I like that. I think more like the Egg Bowl, for Mississippi State's another one. Like, I think they should start calling it, and every state should have a state championship game, and like you actually do become the state champion, and like you got to choose between, and it is chosen based on like obviously there's more than one football team in Ohio, for example, right? But like you would have Ohio State be like Toledo, could be like this. Right. Actually, what would be more fun? Toledo versus like Ohio. University of Ohio would be a more fun state championship game. Then Ohio State's like, well, what the hell? What about us? It's like, I think MAC football better represents that state than the Buckeyes. Probably. Yeah.
So I came across this. I think so I mentioned this yearbook reference in 1929.
Oh, 29.
But then this is when it started to become, in 1937 is when it became common use, and they can kind of pinpoint, at least it is claimed to be because of this publication. And so I'm going to read to you from the 1937 publication, which was talking, it was like a pregame write-up before the game happened, just talking about the history of this rivalry, okay? So, here it goes. Until the late 1930s, the University of Oregon served as Oregon State's annual homecoming opponent. So anticipated is the Civil War game today. Some would say it's the game of any season. it's hard to imagine that the very first one played in Corvallis on November 3rd, 1894, hardly caused a ripple. The big news that fall was the arrival of the elixir called Shiloh's Vitalizer, a medicinal pancha, right? Is that how you say it? Pancha?
Spell it for me.
Panacea.
Panache.
Guaranteed to cure everything from the common cold to dyspepsia and every liver and kidney ailment known to man. Cost was 1 cent per dose.
Wow.
So this is, again, sorry, now out of this. I feel like I probably have to describe this. They are describing the very first game. So this is 1937 describing 1894.
Yeah.
Back in. We're back in now. So that elixir cost 1 cent per dose. There was also much discussion on the streets about a stray horse Charles Heckert had picked up near his home in Corvallis. An animal described as a roan weighing 1,000 pounds with saddle marks and broken to harness. 17 players calling themselves the Hayseeds suited up for Oregon Agricultural College that cold November day to play the boys from the State University in Eugene. They were without shoulder pads, helmets, numbers sewn on jerseys, scholarships, football shoes, cheerleaders, or support from Benton County population at large. For money, they had $135 to pay for everything, but the cost of staging a game. The coach's salary was paid to be paid from this fund. The problem was the team had no coach. The Oregon Agricultural College faculty member and school alumnus John Fulton had started the campaign in the position, but by the first game he had resigned and was now at kickoff, set to serve as a referee. 7 of the 17 who started at football at the Oregon Agricultural College the year before were back for a go at a new season. 5 starters were from the 93 team, 1893. As the game with State University progressed, they looked as if they had never seen a football. The boys from Eugene were not much better. Both teams knew a combined total of 5 plays, and they ran them over and over and over again the entire game. By halftime, the crowd was bored silly. The Oregon Agricultural College found enough success around Eugene's right end to rack up a 16-0 victory. Afterwards, the players retired to Alpha Hall, the Oregon Agricultural College women's dormitory, for a sit-down meal prepared by the president's wife and the school's head of household economy, Margaret Snell, who used the occasion to show off the culinary talents of her students. To both those who watched and those who played it, that opening season win in 1894 over what would one day become the University of Oregon Ducks was just another football game. At a time and era when the sport was just another extracurricular activity at a school where the debate team enjoyed the most prestige in the community. There was no way that they could have known they were the opening spark in what has become one of college football's most storied rivalries and the oldest in the West. End quote.
That was beautiful. It really painted a picture for these rough and tumble guys from Oregon State, and like that spirit of football carries on to Corvallis to this day. I do have to wonder though, because I was going to ask this was in my mind. You said you told me when the Coyotes, Oregon State changed their name to the Beavers. Did they do that before Oregon changed from the Lemon Yellows to the Ducks?
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
Because, gosh, if like Oregon State was like, you know what, we're going to become the Beavers. If that doesn't give you a little bit of introspection, just be like, Lemon Yellows? Do we think we got it with this one? Or do we think we should maybe look around, find something else out there? Oh, look, a duck. Perfect. Print it.
Yeah, that's a great question. No clue.
Yeah.
But in 2020, as some of the listeners know now, it is no longer considered the Civil War, or at least that moniker, that name is not used, nationally, because the two schools came together and agreed to revoke the title when the murders of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd had brought to light just a lot of what was going on in the Black Lives Matter movement. So, with input from both the current and former athletes, the schools concluded the name Civil War still has ties back to the United States Civil War and slavery, despite not being related. That was not the guy's intention back in 1929. Clearly, the idea was just having that, inside the same state battle, and that's what he would consider similar to like, inside the same country battle is considered a civil war.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So they decided to the presidents released a joint statement shortly after, and for now, during that statement they considered it, or they called it, the rivalry series, and that's what they've used moving forward with both communications from both universities. They consider it the rivalry series.
Sorry, real quick, what was the year that they became the Beavers?
In 1916.
Okay, 1926 is when University of Oregon became the Webfoots and then the Ducks. So yeah, it took them a solid decade to realize, you know what, lemon yellows, maybe not the choice for us.
Yeah, and then they were like, well, what are we going to call it? The other school already took our state mascot, state animal. So they're like, shit,
Webfoots.
Right.
Why don't we just go with Ducks? Love it.
That's even better.
They were nicknamed the Webfoots, and then they're like, let's make them the Ducks. These guys.
All right, we've arrived. We've arrived at the time. Please tell people what this trophy looks like.
Yes. Okay. So we have a nice. It's a wooden base, right? And this, I want everyone to kind of realize, like, most of the times we think of like, I like, girth and size and everything like this. This while it does look like a little thick boy that has some heft to it, it's kind of like a little, like a cute little trophy, So we got like a trapezoid wooden base, but I want you guys to think of like a cute little base, right? And then there's a little plaque that says Civil War Platypus Trophy with Oregon and Oregon State's logo on it. And then on top of this cute little trapezoid wooden base, there is a wooden etching of a platypus. And what's really neat about it is a singular piece of wood, right? With some ground. Like the bottom piece of the wood is a darker brown, and there's some like texture in it as if it were grass. And then the singular piece of wood kind of comes up and shapes ever so gently into like a silhouette of a platypus. The face of the platypus doesn't really have much definition to it. The body of it's very smooth, back to the very smooth beaver-like tail. And it's just it looks like it was just ever so carefully like sanded from a singular piece of wood. With the body of the platypus being like a lighter stain to it than the darker stain for contrast, because as I mentioned, it's a singular piece of wood. It's very nice, very shiny. There's a nice lacquer on it. So this is like just a little cute. Looks like it has like maybe a little bit of heft to it, like a little chunky boy, but nice, cute, smooth, refined, very good boy platypus trophy. It's very nice, very regal looking platypus. This looks like a happy platypus. It does have a face, like I said, not a lot of features defined, but I would say that platypus is smiling.
What if I told you that this wasn't what the artist had intended?
Come again?
So Thomas Salgado de Almeida Leme, hope I got that right, from the Daily Barometer, told the story the best. So this is from his blog, from the Daily Barometer. So the trophy was first made by then Oregon student and sculptor Warren Spady before the game in 1959. So Spady made the platypus figure from wood, and was not even able to fully finish the piece before the first game, the feat left being unfinished to this day.
That explains a lot.
The Beavers took the trophy in an upset win that year, thus robbing Spady of the opportunity to finish it, and the Ducks an opportunity to play for the Rose Bowl.
That is awesome. That's even better because it does look. I thought he was just going for a minimalist design, but no, he just didn't finish that sucker. He did lacquer it. He did put a heck of a lot of lacquer on it before he marched out there.
So the trophy was allegedly stolen by Oregon students who kept it even after the 1960 rendition of the football rivalry ended in a tie. Oregon State then won it back the following year, and after that, the trophy went missing.
Yes.
And to this day, there's been no word on exactly what happened to it. All that is known is that the Ducks water polo team had it for a while, as they engraved on it for the years of 1964 through 1968. And then after that, it was reported that Spady spotted it on the Oregon campus in 1986, but neither school seemed to be interested in reviving it as an award. So it just went out in the ether after this 1960 game. Just kind of disappeared. Water polo team got a hold of it, used it for 4 years. So the trophy story then
if it was with the water polo team, that trophy's seen some things. That trophy has seen some things.
So the trophy story then resurfaces in 2004, where an article was written in the Oregonian by John Canzano about how the Ducks and the Beavers should have a rivalry trophy, just like any other big college. And Spady then informed him, dude, I worked goddamn hard on a trophy back in the day. And that they did have the trophy, and it was not used anymore. So a search then started for the Platypus trophy, and it was found once more in the Oregon campus, just in time for the 2007 edition of the game, which Oregon State won. Since then, the trophy has been used over the next 17 meetings of the game. However, it is only exchanged by the alumni associations of each school, not the athletic departments themselves.
See, this is where we got to bring any trophy worth its salt. I need to see it on the field. I just need it on the field, exchanged in hands. Like, it's for the kids. Like, alumni, great, don't care. I'm an alumni too. Like, this is for the kids.
Yeah, and I think I get it from the idea that, like, it was just, like, obviously stolen, then disappeared, and I get it from that standpoint initially, but, like, it's 2024. Like, it's going to be hard to steal that thing in the moment on the field with security. It's
going to get found. Someone's going to post on it. So this thing's going on social media. Yeah.
So yeah, as of now, it's just exchanged between the alumni associations, but at least it is back. Yeah, it was found, and it's being used, unlike some trophies.
Freaking paddle wheel.
That's it. That's all I got.
All right.
So why don't we get to our rankings?
Let's do it.
What do you got for looks?
Oh, man. Yeah. Yeah, I got to go. I would think if you didn't tell me that was unfinished, it's just so unique. Who the hell has a platypus? It's got to be a 5. I mean, don't
overthink this.
Yeah, I don't know what I was doing. It's a 5.
I mean, it's a fucking platypus, which, if people don't know, is a mixture between a duck and a beaver. Yeah, so not only do they incorporate both schools,
it's perfect. No notes.
Right. Yeah. And then you have the fact that it's an unfinished trophy because the kid was rushed in the moment.
Yeah.
It's a 5 for me.
Yeah. Man, I love the theft. I love the unfinishedness of it. What more could I want? I don't
It
think
being on the
anything.
field. So I feel
Yeah,
like that's that. Yeah, that's probably the ding.
yeah. I'm gonna go 4.5. I'm just gonna take a half point off for it. That's pretty good. It's had quite a nice little long life cycle. I like that.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. Let's see here. Trying to think of how we've scaled. It's definitely at least a 4. Is it a 4.5? It can't be a 5 because it's not exchanged on the field. I'll go 4.5. I do like the fact that it was a student that did it. I like the fact that it was stolen. Made it to many fraternity parties, especially the water
Yes.
polo houses.
Yes.
The fact that people didn't lose it like permanently and they could find it again.
Yeah.
Also, just as if that platypus could talk, right?
Yeah. Oh, it's seen some things. It has seen some things.
Rivalry.
I mean, 5. I feel like Oregon State is one of the biggest ones that we talk about. I mean, it's a shame that they're no longer in the same conference, but I feel like I can't knock them for it, and they're still playing the game. So, I mean, it's definitely a big rivalry that means a lot. I feel like I got to go 5. I would be tempted to take a point off because they're not in the same conference anymore, but that seems unfair. So,
yep, 5 for me too. It's an in-state rivalry. I mean, they dubbed it the Civil War for a reason. Been played over 125 times over the course of the rivalry. Yeah, it's definitely one of the best ones.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Competitiveness.
I mean, it's really pretty close. 68 to 49 to 10. And like, even if Oregon's good and they gotta go Corvallis, it's like, you sure about that?
Yeah, I know. We're looking ahead to this weekend. And
yeah.
You sure about that?
Yeah. Do I give it a 5? I might. I mean, what's more competitive? Maybe this is where I have to take a little bit off because of them no longer being in the same conference. I feel like that has to negatively impact this in some way. Yeah, I'm gonna go 4.5 just because I just think that there might be something that's just a little bit higher on the no 5. I don't know. I can't think of anything. 5.
I was just gonna go. I was gonna go 4.5 just because 20 in the grand scheme of 127 or whatever it is still relatively close. I think that kind of surprised me, and then when and I think a lot of this comes down to us, especially, and I'm going to speak for most people on the East Coast because I know it's true, is like people forget that Oregon was just like a mid-major, right?
Yeah.
Like it was just like essentially a group of 5 until Phil Knight decided to dump money into it. So it very well, they were on a level playing field until that moment. And even once that moment happened, Oregon did start to dominate a bit more, but like you said, similar to how like Michigan and Michigan State were, like even in, Michigan's heyday and Michigan State, before D'Antonio, those games were trap games, right? Like, especially if they had to go to East Lansing, they would put up a fight. So, shit, now I feel like I'm talking myself into a 5.
Right. That's the thing. I started thinking about it.
I'm just going to go 5.
That's the problem. It's like, I was like, oh no, it should be a 4.5. Now I'm like, gosh, like, no, because like, you're right. Like historically, it was the Ducks were nothing. They were the lemon yellows. But yeah, I think it's just, it does mean so much to these kids, and no matter how good Oregon is, if you walk into Corvallis on the wrong night, you're screwed. And I think the same goes for Oregon State, right? They always know the Ducks can get them. So top tier, right? We almost a top, almost a perfect score for us. Half a point away.
Yeah, and I will say this. There is also something really fun that comes from this game. But it's like, it's tough because like I just hate when Oregon uses their neon highlighter, but this is similar to USC UCLA, where when they play, both teams wear their home jerseys.
Yeah.
And so you have in some years bright orange and bright yellow, which is fun. I think sometimes it looks terrible, to be truthful. I would rather them have like green and orange, but also a fun little thing there. It's obviously USC UCLA. It's hard to beat those two home jerseys. If you guys listen to our jersey draft, then you know those were early picks. But I do like that they do that, and I think more rivalries that have drastically different colors should do that.
I just want to go back and do that draft again. Just everything we took is already off the board, and we have to do it again.
More that could be fun.
Just more, yeah.
I mean, anything you would change? I think this is one where they nailed it.
No, I think it should just be a big coyote eating a lemon. That if I think they totally got this wrong. Coyote eating a lemon should be the but the coyote's like very like squinty, like, ooh, that's sour. Yeah, that's what I think it should be. So
okay. I have no notes.
No notes.
So, like I mentioned, this game will be played this week in Corvallis on Fox at 3:30. I will be tuning in. The spread is the Beavers are getting 16.5 at home. What are your thoughts? I want to be careful.
Beavers are getting 16.5, you say?
Yeah, I want to be careful not to overreact. However, we're 2 games in. Now, mind you, Idaho is now, they took care of business in Wyoming, which we know it's tough to play in Laramie, even when they have, oh, shoot, I know who their quarterback is. And I laughed when I found out who it was. Oh, no.
Josh Allen?
No, that's the problem. But I think Idaho might be a little better than people thought, not to say that they should have been that close in that game. Boise, as you guys know, I think are Mountain West and future champs and are staring down a playoff berth here for the group of 5. But
the quarterback's Evan Swoboda.
Swoboda. Why does that sound so familiar? Maybe that's not who I'm thinking of. Did he transfer in or no?
Yeah, from hold on, let me see. No, did he? I don't know.
But yeah, so I know that Oregon State beat San Diego State pretty soundly, which kind of somewhat surprised me. But again, like I don't really know the state of some of these Mountain West schools outside of UNLV and Boise. But it's a hated rivalry, and now it's in Corvallis, and I think with the Pac 12, blowing up them, the Beavers getting left behind, Jonathan Smith leaving and taking a lot with him. I think they have about as big of a chip on their shoulder as possible. And I think for Oregon, this is probably the worst time to play them, especially in Corvallis. It's good because it's not going to be shit weather. I mean, I don't think so because it's so early in the season versus in November, but I don't know. I think Oregon wins. I don't know if they cover.
I mean, the Vandals are good, right? The Vandals are good. We know Boise State's good. Like, we know that they are good from the first game they played and then this game. Part of me thinks Oregon just played 2 really, really good teams their first 2 games, and they're battle tested, and they know that they can't. Like, if they would have blown out Idaho, or even if they would have blown out Boise State too, I'd be a little bit more. Oh gosh, this is really hard. That's what she said, because yeah, there's definitely the whole revenge thing is definitely on Oregon State's mind, but like I think Dan Lanning probably realizes that too. 16.5 is a lot of points. 3:30.
I was to say the problem for me personally, so that's really 12:30, so it's really a noon kickoff.
Right, noon kickoff. Yeah.
I just haven't watched Oregon State this year, so I really don't know what they look like. I just know that they've won their 2 games. They won their first conference game.
I'll tell you what they look like. I'll tell you what they look like. I mean, it's around 80 dudes wearing orange and black jerseys. Sometimes there's more orange than black. Sometimes there's more black than orange. They have a beaver on the side of their helmet. Okay. You want to know what's interesting? There's a lot of parallelism here. Oregon State played Idaho State in their first game, won 38-15. Oregon State then played San Diego State in their second game and played and won 21-0. So I don't know, man. I don't know that I feel comfortable making a pick right now because, again, I think that Oregon's not going to sleepwalk in there. They're going to know that this is a challenge, and they definitely know that they're not invincible because they almost lost their past 2 games.
Yeah.
So 16 feels like a lot, especially for the way Dylan Gabriel just starts playing good football. Does that change it? Now, I didn't see the Boise State game. I know he didn't play well against Idaho.
It's the offensive line. It's not him. That's the problem. Trash. The offensive line who was supposed to be very good. I mean, they lost Powers Jackson, their center, but they still have 2 NFL tackles. All conference. One guard. The other one is kind of, I think, the weakest link, and that's you're only as strong as your weakest link on the offensive line. But
they're just going to get better. They're going to be like Bama's O-line last year, and by the end of the season, they're just going to be game breakers.
Their defense is nasty. But the problem is they only beat Boise State because they returned a punt and a kickoff.
Oh, really?
2 special teams touched.
Ooh.
So, I don't know.
Yeah, but when you're talking about 16.5, they get one of those again.
Now, mind you, John T is also the first running back off the board. Sure. He got paid a lot of money, got offered a lot of money to leave Boise and chose not to. But so it's not like it was, they were playing a very talented player. I think the defense is going to be fine. I think it's going to come down to, how long does it take this offense to finally click?
Are you making a pick? Am I being a wuss by not?
No, I'm not going to make an official. Right as of now, time of taping, Monday, I'm leaning the Beavers to cover. Oregon to win, Beavers to cover. I'm leaning that way. But I don't think that's an official pick. That'd be my lean.
Yeah, my lean is 34-13 Oregon. I think that they show up quite motivated at this point. Yeah. That's what I'm thinking.
And that's going to do it for us this week. So follow us on Instagram at whiskers.whiskies and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, it's still not too late if you want to join us for our Pick'em Challenge. We had someone join us in week 2 and they are 3 points behind, right? It can, right?
No, 3.
Yeah,
you're right.
Yeah, 3. He got 2 and the leaders are
Which
5.
one did he miss?
The super dog, Irish. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
He should have 0. That the biscuit should be nullified.
Yeah.
But yeah, especially with the biscuits, just even if you don't think you're necessarily going to win, but you're making bets anyway, just play with us. Again, it's a long season. There's 14 probably more weeks, 13 more weeks. That you have a chance to catch us, and it's free. And you could walk home with a bottle of whiskey and some swag. So do it. But join us next week when we talk about another favorite rivalry that we mentioned before, happening this weekend. Unfortunately, we couldn't do both of them, but also catch the Apple Cup. That's going to be a fun one, and I really can't wait to talk about it after the fact because it also is a very fun rivalry and a very cool trophy. So for Mike, I'm EJ. Always remember, too much of anything is bad, but too much good whiskey is barely enough.
Cheers, boys.